Um. Anyway, next up, Chicago Bears. Mal, I'll let you take the floor on this one.
I'm gonna put him in WTF. Uh, cause it's like they got around the same. They got around the win amount. Like they got around like the win total that I expected. I
It
would have
went from
said like
three
eight
wins
and
to
nine.
seven, though, right?
Yeah, I expected like an 8-9 year. We went 7-10, which I was only off one game, but it was basically But it was so weird because we started off horribly, like absolutely horrendous, but then we played better. We lost a few games amongst the stretch that we played better, but those were chokes, and
Hmm.
it's like, okay, we choked versus the Broncos, we choked versus the Lions, which I still to this day cannot believe we lost that game. Any 31 other teams would win that fucking game. I cannot believe that we lost that game. And then we choked to the Browns, which
Broncos,
again, 31 other
Browns,
teams.
Broncos, Lions. The three painful losses.
So that's 8, 9, 10. That's 10
You
wins
could
that
have
the
gotten
Bears have.
10-7 and made the playoffs.
But the thing is, like, it's just so weird because this team was such a roller coaster, and I don't know. It's like they got around the amount of wins I expected, but it's also like you know parts of our team weren't playing good, but then other parts of our team were playing good. Like the defense, played amazing. Or they started off horrendous, but they played amazing the second. The second we traded for Montez Sweat, they played really good. You know that the Bears are first in turnovers defensive wise. Did you know that?
No,
And did you know
no,
that the Bears
did
also
not.
have guys that broke out? Like obviously, Montez. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but I'm not trying to like continuously mention his name, but guys like Tyreek Stevenson, who again deserved more recognition because that guy he had about as good of a year as Deontay Banks and Devon Witherspoon, but I
It's
feel like
crazy Joey Porter made it over both of them. Deontay Banks or him should have gotten it, like
yeah,
in the
Tyreek
nomination,
Stevenson, yeah,
which is, yeah.
but but I just it's like they got the amount of wins that around the amount of wins that I expected, but it's also like it's kind of like the Bills, but like a worse version, if you get what I'm saying, because they got
Okay,
around the
that's
amount of
fair.
wins that I expected, but the roller coaster that it took to get the amount of wins, it's
Yeah,
just
I'll
like
put
it
them in
was.
what the fuck as well. I feel like it was better in some ways because they went from 3 to 7 wins, but I also thought they would be like an 8, 9, 10 win team and potentially make the playoffs this year because um I thought they were going to beat the Packers week 1 and DJ Moore to an extent. Thank you, DJ Moore, by the way, for all the fantasy good you did for me. I thought him and Fields and DJ would hit it off, and DJ had a career year with him, and he'll be a great guy for whoever's the QB next year. I just think like the Bears' concerns are they're keeping a head coach while he's a good defensive mind, a guy that is not ideal for developing a young quarterback and they had a bad OC. So you could blame coaching, right? And they're if they draft Caleb Williams, it's going to be the same cycle of you have a rookie quarterback with a coach that should have been fired, arguably, or at least had a better. You guys should have gotten off after a better head coach, and it just leads to then that coach getting fired after his rookie year and then having a bunch of
Watch.
new systems to learn. So the Bears seem to be going in an endless cycle. And the last main success they had in the playoffs was with Jay Cutler, a veteran.
Which I mean, um, I agree. I'm still really pissed about keeping Matt Eberflus. No offense to the guy, he's probably a
But he's
really
a
nice
decent
guy.
defensive play caller, and
And
your
he
team
is,
defense
and he
did
is, and
good.
100%. And if he was like just solely a defensive coordinator, he would be ranked amongst one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. And that's not even crazy for me to say because he's a really good defensive mind. Don't get me wrong about that.
But the
Although,
head coach brings that other
but
responsibility
again,
and level.
yep, the responsibility of being a head coach, and again, it's the choking. You cannot, if you are serious about winning, you cannot lose games in the fashion that you have. And I just have a feeling that next year I'm going to be like, oh, this Bears team could have been like 11-6 or or something if had we not choked like 4 games away. I would be saying because this is what we always do. We always choke games. We blow leads. We are the new Falcons. The Falcons are not the chokers. They honestly, like I feel like we can blow like a 42-17 lead. Like that's how the defense will play good next year, but knock on wood, actually. But again, it's not even his play calling. It's just his coaching style in situations that matter. It really, really hurts that I have to see this again. I have to.
Yeah.
We're gonna choke.
Hopefully though, Luke Getsy being gone will fix a lot of your problems. And
We're
I
gonna be
think
up next year versus the
it's
Seahawks.
gonna also, you guys have a lot of cap space, right? Like, I
Yeah,
think
and
it'll
draft
really
picks.
depend what the Bears decide to do at quarterback, whether they keep Justin or draft Williams, and how they sign additions. Because I'll be honest, yes, this season was frustrating for you guys, but especially with all the hype. But I think you guys are taking slow steps in the right direction.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
hopefully Shane will help. So I think you guys will hopefully take another step. But I thought I put it as like a bit of a worse than expected. But we'll keep it in what the fuck, because it just, the Bears are an example, guys, of why the room for error is so minor. Because if they won those 3 games, they would be a playoff team right now.
And they would have probably been better than expected. Like
Oh
that's
no,
that's
yeah,
the thing.
100%. Like, it just really, like, this is a big difference. But
If we didn't choke those games. But the thing, like, yeah, I'm sorry, but like from rambling about the Bears so much. But the thing is, though, um, like I know, like some people want to like make rumors that Caleb Williams is anti-Chicago, but I genuinely think, like, and I'm not even trying to be biased when I say this, but I genuinely think that Caleb Williams, like Chicago, for any quarterback needy team, Chicago is the best situation that he walks into because he walks into a situation where the Bears have a ton of cap space. They have
a franchise
multiple,
receiver.
yes, a 1,300-yard receiver, a real number one receiver. They have a good tight end in Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet, he's good. He's really good. Um, and you have some running backs. The offensive line is definitely better than it was when Justin Fields walked into his rookie season. So basically, Caleb Williams is walking into a situation way better than Justin Fields was able to walk into in his rookie year. And not only that, but compared to other teams like Washington, which I mean, I do think they have some weapons, like Terry and Curtis and Mr. Unathletic and Thanos. Mr. Unathletic, aka Logan Thomas, Thanos, aka Brian Robinson. But all these other teams, I just feel like they don't have the maximum flexibility to get all these guys like the Bears have. Yeah, the Patriots have the most cap space and a top 3 pick, but their offense is so bad that it's going to take so much for them to um to even try to get a competitive roster. And not only that, they hired a defensive coach. So I feel like, Caleb Williams is actually walking into a pretty decent situation, all bias aside.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, considering how I used to hear from you that you're kind of a Williams hater, and I know it's because you love Fields, I'm happy you're saying these objective comments, and I agree
Well,
with you.
yeah, sometimes I gotta take my bias aside, put my bias out of the equation. But also the reason, by the way, guys, if you guys wonder why I didn't like Caleb Williams for a while, it's because of his personality. I just really
Oh no,
think
I
that.
agree. That's like a thing I think people will be concerned about. He like tweets of them keep getting Marvin. He had some questionable decisions. Like he seemed a little bit like a brat, but I think if he goes, and also Chicago, I don't think is going to pass up on the opportunity for the number 1 pick again. Like, we could see teams like the Raiders and stuff trying to make a splash for a QB. They're not there, but they want to get up there a little bit to get a quarterback, because Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, they're going to go like potentially the top 6 picks, probably. So, but I don't think the Bears, unless it's a massive, massive, massive haul, they'll give it up. Like, it would have to be like even more of a fleece than the Panthers, frankly, or a gamble, I should say.
100%, but I feel like people are gonna be way too scared to do it because they saw
Yeah.
what the Panthers did and they're like,
Oh
God,
no,
I don't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, let's
Stuffers.
do the rest of these a little quicker. So next up is the Cowboys. If we're gonna talk about the regular season, they were really good at home and had a great defense, but in the playoffs, they were really disappointing. I don't think anyone who's watching this knows what happens, so I don't think we need to get into that. But if we're just saying the whole season, including playoffs, I would say massive disappointment because the Cowboys choke every year, but you had Dak playing at an MVP level, CD leading the league in receiving yards, their defense being lights out, and then it just crap the bed completely in the postseason. So out of all the this is our year teams in a weak NFC, this was one of the better Cowboys years to go up there, contend with the Niners.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I
So
mean,
yeah, let's actually change this. We'll do whole season because otherwise, if we say regular, I would put them in like as expected or better. And you could even put them in as expected because they shit the bed in the playoffs. But I think you could argue this is worse than expected just because of the regular season prowess they had and how they crafted in the playoffs.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, they went 12-5 again, third year in a row of going 12-5. So in a way, it's kind of like they got the record I
It could be
expected.
as expected. I see what you're talking about,
Then they
but
shit the bed in the playoffs, you know. But I did not expect them to shit the bed in the first round. That's what I will say.
yeah, see, also they seemed better in the regular season towards the end than they were in other years. So that's my argument. Okay, next up, the Packers. Couldn't be more wrong. I thought this would be the worst team in the NFC North. I thought I kind of just didn't remember. I kind of took love out of the equation when thinking about this team earlier in the season. And yeah, they had I just thought their team was really young and they would get like 8 wins, and they got 9 wins, but the way the splash they made almost beating the Niners is just crazy. Like what they did in this and running the table too. Like I think Matt LaFleur now is beaten the can't be clutch when in big moments for his team
I mean,
allegations.
they did better than I expected. I don't know about completely because I expected them to be pretty solid this year. And when I mean solid, like I actually thought that 7 wins was impossible. Like I thought, and that's not like I thought that they would get no lower than 8 wins. Like I actually thought they were going to be pretty decent this year. And honestly, the playoffs wouldn't have surprised me, but the way that they blew out the Cowboys in their game plan versus the Niners, it was like holy crap. And I know I keep saying this, and I know it's a little cliche at this point, but dude, Matt LaFleur is the Packers. He's the Packers, okay? Jordan Love is great. He is their next franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. They're going to win a Super Bowl with him 100%. He's going to win an MVP. You know, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But I promise you, dude, the Packers don't get half of this without Matt LaFleur. And anyone that's ever called him Matt LaFleur, you need to like apologize to him. You need to like write him a letter and like make a whole like essay of apologizing to him because you couldn't have been more stupid if you actually were calling him Matt LaFleur. I'm giving this coming from Bears fan. I'm giving him his fucking flowers. He's my coach of the year, in my opinion. I don't care. I'm picking him over Dan Campbell. Yeah, Dan Campbell, he has big, he makes a lot of big risks. But I have never seen a head coach with such a good game plan against such good teams and be able to pull off wins like they have. Like it takes a
I
real
think for some like the Chiefs, you got to give Joe Barry credit. I think Joe Barry, like he's inconsistent, but he's able to give decent game plans to the Niners and especially the Chiefs. Like, I don't
but
know.
it's
But
just
I'm not trying to take away from Matt LaFleur.
overall offense. Okay, I mean Joe Barry, I get it, but he's also freaking horrible. But the
He's
thing is,
inconsistent.
he's flat out garbage in my opinion. He's inconsistent, but the flat out garbage kind of the inconsistency and the flat out garbage makes the flat out garbage outweigh the inconsistent. But Matt LaFleur, he has an aggressive game plan that he has an aggressive game plan where he wants to fire out early. He wants to fire out early. He schemes guys open. Even if the routes seem very basic, it still works, and he still does it consistently. And I will continue to say this. Like, again, half of their success is due to Matt LaFleur, and people are gonna get mad at me. I'm not taking away anything from Jordan Love. Jordan Love's success also has a lot to do with the Packers, success this year. But a lot of it, Matt LaFleur deserves a ton of credit too, because
Yeah, I think
I,
we
I
get it.
feel like the receivers aren't bad. Okay, they're not. They're pretty solid, but their receivers aren't at a level where it's like, okay, they're difference makers. And no disrespect to their receivers, but I promise you, on other teams, if they play with a quarterback not named Jordan Love, they're not putting up the amount of production that they did. Jordan Love is the type of quarterback that's able to spread the ball to many different receivers. He probably won't ever have a 1,000-yard receiver. Maybe he will, but barely over 1,000 yards. But that's because all
But they
the
have a
other
lot
guys,
of balance.
he balances it out. But also that balance is due to Matt LaFleur scheming these guys open. And that's why he deserves the most credit, in my opinion. And yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'll put him in couldn't have been more wrong.
Okay.
Even though
Next up, the Denver Broncos. I'm putting them in worse than expected because I thought they get 9 wins and be a 7 seed. They got 7 to 8, I think, which on paper doesn't seem off, but the way they just still underachieved, in my opinion, Sean's still not being the guy for them with what they gave up. And like another try this all in push, and Russ, like, I agree that he didn't work out, but the way they just decided to bench him and stuff, like, I get it. It makes sense. But it was actually our first episode we talked about, but I still like just think the whole way the season ended with that and them still more or less being kind of the same is just like it's just disappointing. I think people thought they were going to be better this year
yeah, no,
with Sean, and I think Sean Payton's kind of an asshole, and he just doesn't. It just wasn't a good look to get him. Like it was just a desperate move to try to kind of go all in with what you went
I mean,
all
to
in to
be
try to
fair though,
change.
like he was low key. I mean, outside of like D'Amico Ryan's, he was low key the best option that they could have gotten.
He
Like I
was,
know
but
it was
like
disappointing because
the
what they
trade
gave
right
up.
now is not looking great at all for them, bro. It's just not.
I feel like you have to give it time with Sean Payton. He's too good of a head coach for people to just say, "Oh, it's a bust." Dude, there are outside of D'Amico Ryan's, there are plenty of other guys that the Broncos would be way worse with. I guarantee
That's
you.
fair. I mean, you're right. The Broncos made it clear that if Russ didn't work out, they would keep Sean over him. But people just thought, I just thought they would work out better, and I don't think all of it's Russ's fault. But like, I do agree. I agree. They're going to keep Sean. They were always going to keep him over Russ. It's just right now, it's not looking great, but we'll see.
Yeah,
So
they
worse than
were.
expected. And with Jim Harbaugh back and the Raiders, I think going in a positive direction, especially if they get a quarterback or trade up, not the number one pick, but for a Drake May or Jaden Daniels potentially, I think Bill Broncos could be last in the division again. Or they
Yeah,
weren't last this time, but they'll be last next year. Because I feel like with the Chargers will ascend and all that.
I feel like they were, worse than I expected, but
They did
no.
have a good run. I just want to say
In
they had a good five
theory,
and one. They had
in
a good run.
theory, in
But some of those
theory,
wins were ugly.
in theory, they were about as I expected. But uh,
I don't know. I just had them being a playoff team this year.
it was. I mean, I didn't think that they'd make the play just because I thought the AFC was too competitive. And even you
That's
said nine
fair.
and eight, 9-8 make the 7th seed. You had to have 10 wins or better to make the 7th seed, unfortunately. So even that wouldn't have
Yeah,
worked
but
out.
I thought it'd be more of a bloodbath. You know what I mean? Like a worser record, but more of a bloodbath. I don't know, like tiebreakers and stuff. Maybe I was being a little weird there, but I thought they'd be a 7 seed with 9, 10
Yeah,
wins.
I mean
Uh,
that's fair, but They started off the season bad. Obviously, you remember the 70 points they allowed to the
No,
Broncos.
yeah, but then they were bounced and then they kind of fell off again. So, and then they
But
had the whole quarterback drama.
yeah, no, I guess I'll say worse than I expected. A little worse.
Okay, next up, the Detroit Lions, better than expected. Actually, I thought they were going to get like 11 to 12 wins, but I'm pushing them to the better than expected because of the fact they made the NFC Championship. I thought that after the Ravens and how iffy they looked sometimes, but also won and their defense, I thought that they were not going to make it past the divisional round. Now, if I knew the opponents they were playing, like not the Eagles, like the Rams, I thought there was a chance the Lions would be upset. And in the Bucks, I thought the Lions could win that too. But I just thought like before the playoffs were all set in stone, they wouldn't make it past the divisional round. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I thought they would win the North 11, 12 wins. It's going to be harder next year with the Packers and I think the Vikings fully healthy, but I would put them in better than expected to like as expected range.
yeah, me too. Because the wins I expected,
They hit on
but
their drafts picks too. Sam
that was
Laporta,
also better
Jahmyr
than we
Gibbs,
expected.
Jack
Because a lot of people
Campbell
were
had a
mad.
bit of a bad start, but he's proven to be pretty good. He had a strong finish.
Yeah, he was just like they just needed to utilize him more, and then they did. They did to their credit. They were better than I expected, but if had they not made the NFC Championship game, I honestly would have put them in what the fuck because
I would have
because
put
it,
them in as expected if they didn't make it. But yeah, you explain.
because some of their losses were also like they lost to the Bears, bro. The
No,
Bears,
I agree they
like
were iffy. It's just that's why I said they
yeah,
wouldn't make
but
it
but
past
they
the
were better than I
divisional
expected
round.
though,
That's
because
why I said that. But yeah. And they
but like
had a 24-7 lead versus the Niners. Even getting to that hot start's impressive.
yeah, no, it was very impressive, and Dan Campbell's aggressive play style got them to where they were. But the utilizing of Jahmyr Gibbs,
David
that guy's
Montgomery, good
and David Montgomery
power back punch.
and
Like he
Sam
was the
Laporta
power
too.
back, and then Jameer is the elusive. Oh yeah, Sam Laporta is one of my favorite. He's my second favorite rookie besides CJ Stroud, offensive rookie.
Yeah, yeah,
Puka is my
no.
third, but I just like Sam
They did
Laporta.
better. They did better than I expected. But had they not made that, oh no, had they been a first round exit, I would have been like, what the fuck? Because like it's like
Oh no, totally.
because
But like, if I knew that it was the Rams, I would have been like, hey, I still would have put them as expected because I feel like I could have seen them losing. I picked the Rams to beat them in the wild card round, and it was a very good game. I thought they were pretty evenly
yeah,
matched teams, but if this was earlier in the season, I would have been like WTF with you. But anyway, Jags,
all credit to the Lions
massive.
except for that guy CJ Gardner Johnson. I hate him.
Oh yeah, bozo. He was like, "Bye bye everybody, bye San Francisco," and then guess what? They got crapped on. Devo's right. Devo's always right, guys. Devo's always right. That's what you got to know. Anyway, um,
Oh man.
Jags. Oh man.
Honestly, we have to make a
For
new
me,
tier for this.
massive disappointment. One of two of my worst takes this year. Number one, Trevor MVP candidate. Number two, what the fuck? What was that? Okay, number two, Derek Carr, top three passing yards leader. The Saints and Jags were my worst takes by far, and it's not even close. And the fact that they started like 8-3 and missed the playoffs, like they pulled an Eagles. They are the Eagles of the AFC, bro. Their loss allowed the Bills and the Steelers to get in, and it also benefited the Texans.
Yeah.
And it got the Texans to win the division too. The Colts were there too. It was hilarious.
Dude, it was oh my god, it was horrible. And you might as well just put the Saints up there too.
Oh no, Saints, I'm putting massive disappointment too. They had the easiest schedule of the year and they still look so horrible. They looked like the Denver Broncos. It is torture watching them. If Derek Carr's contract wasn't as lengthy, people would be calling for him out right now. I figured Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael would be bad. especially Dennis Allen. So it's why I picked Derek Carr as one of the passing yard leaders because I thought he would always have to come from behind. But I thought this team would be 9-8 and win their division. So yeah, I'm putting both of these teams as massive disappointments. Two of my
Well, I mean,
worst takes of the year by far.
technically, record wise, you were right on the Saints. Technically,
Technically, but the way they just and also not winning their division and just them being underwhelming with the easiest schedule of the league.
yeah.
Like, yeah, you guys had a playoff berth handed to you on a silver platter, bro. All right, next up, the Colts. I'm gonna put these guys in better than expected. They did better with than I thought with Gardner Minshew. They had him. They had Anthony Richardson injured. It was a very interesting because he was like a Josh Allen. But I figured with Shane Steichen he would do well. And when Anthony got hurt, we didn't know what would happen, and they ended up doing good. And Alec Pierce and Josh Downs had pretty good seasons and aren't talked about enough.
Yeah, no,
So I would put them in better than expected. And they were contending for the division too for a while, man.
yeah, I agree. Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, they had themselves a year. Gardner Minshew, he's always been a solid quarterback to have. Can win you games for sure. Nothing crazy, but he could definitely win you games. So, but I didn't think the Colts roster would be that good coming into the year. Just looking at it on paper, but you know, again, that's what good coaching does. Good coaching makes you uh competitive and um I'm sorry. Your good coaching makes you competitive. Yeah, so I was kind of wrong on them. So Smelly?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. So next, yeah, no, totally coaching being competitive. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs. There isn't much to say here, honestly. I thought they would be a Super Bowl team before the season started, so I would put them as the as expected tier. I'd actually put the 49ers there too, our two teams going in the Super Bowl. But the way Mahomes had a down year and then made it could also be a better than expected, but I feel like just because of the way Mahomes is, I also am not surprised at the same time. So, like, I'm surprised and not surprised. Their defense was really good, though. So it's frustrating, but like, I would put them in the as expected. Everyone was saying Chiefs Eagles for like right off Super Bowl 57 predictions for next
I
year, you
would
know?
I would put him in what the fuck because yeah, I'd give him the credit, but dude, like they made the Super Bowl and it shouldn't be surprising, and it's not.
But it's just
But
it's just Mahomes. It's like Brady, bro. It's like Brady. Like,
it's the way it happened, like
oh no, yeah, I agree.
because all the nobody receivers that they have, like their receivers are about as fast as I am and can catch balls the way
MVS
I
is
do.
faster. He just
I
finally
just
can only catch the
I
ball
just
in
I
clutch moments. Rasheed Rice,
I,
he was a guy I was hyped on this whole season, and he showed up in the playoffs. So I'm happy I was right about him.
yeah, but the rest of the receivers, they've got a
Travis
good.
Kelsey was also washed until the Bills divisional game. So, like, you're right. The way it happens, but like, actually, you know what? We're going to create an entirely new tier for the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, add row below. We'll do this one as like orange. We're going to name this the regular season as expected, but WTF. I think that's very I think that's very suiting for the Chiefs. What
Yep,
about
it
well,
deserves a
okay.
tier of its own.
Yeah, no, just like the WTF for the Bears and Bills. Okay, Niners, this one can go in as
As
expected.
expected. As
Because
ex-
weaker NFC, we've seen that this year, and they made the Super Bowl again. They have, in my opinion, the best roster in the NFL. And yeah, they're just going to be a contender for years to come. People saw them going through this division, their division, and the NFC. Like, it's not surprising. I don't think there's much to say. Everyone expected it to be Ravens, Niners, and sure, a lot of people like the Niners being back there, but they were more expected to go into the Super Bowl compared to the Chiefs and the whole AFC outcome, you know?
yeah, it was as expected, but mind you, like some elite teams like they get losses here and there. They went through a slump at one point in the year, which I did not expect. But the way they made it look after that losing streak was like, okay, okay, okay. Now I know. Now you're proving
Oh
me
yeah,
right.
no, when they lost three in a row, I was like, oh my God, they're washed. And then they weren't. They
Purdy,
traded for Chase Young, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. They're gonna trade for a big guy and make it to the conference championship.
it was a panic move,
Okay,
but
but on an unrelated note, I respect Kittle, and he and some other guys are the only reason I would be fine with them winning a ring as a Seahawks fan because George Kittle deserves a ring, CMC deserves a ring. Like they deserve rings, but it's also division rivals, so I feel iffy about them. You know what I mean?
yeah, Trent
Like I'm
Williams too.
rooting for
Let's
both
not
teams
forget
to
about
lose.
Trent.
I hope and things suspends the game and we yeah, I'm just hoping for an entertaining game. But anyway, next up, the Rams. Better than
Oh, by the way,
expected.
George Kittle's a Bears fan. I just want to put that out
Oh
there.
yeah,
George
yeah,
Kittle.
yeah, true. Okay, next up, the Rams. I could see this team going as far as couldn't be more wrong. They got gems in Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams had 1,300 yards. He finished top three in rushing, and he missed 5 games. So they got a future back there after trading Cam Akers to the Vikings this year. Puka was an insane rookie receiver. He broke receptions, yards, touchdowns. He was just insane since week one. I remember watching the Seahawks game week one. I was like, who is Puka Nakua and why is he cooking my defense? But obviously, that was when I first learned his name, and he's a great guy now, and he would get offensive rookie of the year if it wasn't for CJ Stroud. I don't know why I said offensive, but yeah, he's getting OROY if it wasn't for Stroud. And their O line was also seen as bad. They were seen as a rebuilding year, but they almost beat a divisional team in the Lions. Stafford also looks better. I think he's there for at least a couple more years. I definitely a better. I honestly, I feel like better is fine, but I feel like putting them in couldn't be more wrong is also valid.
I would put them in better personally. Yeah, I mean, I never expected Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams to have breakout years, but I did feel though
I
like
just thought
with
they
a
weren't going to make the playoffs. You
with
know what
a
I mean?
healthy, yeah, but I didn't think they were going to be one of the worst in the league. Just because with the healthy Matthew Stafford, you can always win games with a healthy Matthew Stafford, and I thought that Cup was going to be healthy, so I was like, this team could go like 8-9, 9-8, with a
Yeah, but
fully
Cup kind of fell off. Like one thing I was wrong
well,
about was Cup. He when he came back, I figured, okay, Puka will be a good wide receiver too or slot receiver, but Cup's going to take over, right? Nope. Puka continued to be the number one guy there, in my opinion.
weird because Cup as soon as he came back, he was making a huge impact, having a couple of 100-yard games, but then it slowed down because at that point I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, like he's gonna take over, but then, but like something that weird is like they were always splitting. Like it was either Cup would have the 100-yard game or Nakua would have the 100-yard game. There was never an in between with the two. It's like either I get it or you get it, we can't both get it. So yeah, no, but I feel like they're better than expected. I didn't think they were going to be horrendous.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have the Chargers. I would put them as massive disappointments. They have a good roster. They were 5-12. You could argue Brandon Staley always holds them back, so you shouldn't be surprised by this outcome, but like, bro, it's going 5-12 is a new low. And obviously they had their backup in for a bit. Herbert got hurt. Keenan had a good season, I gotta say, for his age. Eckler was a bust. Like, I think in terms of some player performances and team, you got to put this team as at least like a worse than expected. I mean, they finished 5-12, bro.
That is not, yeah, you're right. That is not very good. But man, the Jim Harbaugh hiring just really distracts me from the fact that they had a bad season. But yeah, no, it was pretty disappointing. But I mean, then again, Brandon Staley was their coach, so that stuff happens. But yeah, they were a massive disappointment for sure.